Welcome to TecoGuide, the only app designed to help you navigate your college and career journey in the quickest and most affordable way. This podcast is brought to you by Tequity, dedicated to opening doors to higher education and career opportunities for all.
Hi everyone, my name is Josh Kahn and I'm the ops lead here at Teco. I'm also going to be creating some podcasts and content to help you learn how to be a better student. So since you might be seeing my face around our app or on the website, I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about my background, where I come from. So I was born in the U.S. Virgin Islands, which are an island chain in the Caribbean just east of Puerto Rico. But I didn't have like a glamorous tropical paradise childhood. I moved when I was 5, or my family moved when I was 5. And then I lived in South Carolina, West Virginia, and a few towns in Florida before my family ended up in Arizona just before I started high school. And that's really where I grew up, in this small town called Sierra Vista, which is basically just a support community for military base that's about a half hour north of the Mexican border. And if people ask, that's where I say I'm from. Like all my closest friends are still from high school, even though nobody lives in that town anymore. So growing up, education was a pretty consistent theme in my life. Like, my mom was a teacher. I actually had her as a teacher at several different schools, which was a fun experience as a kid. And I was, luckily, what you would probably call a good student, by which I mean that I was good at taking tests, I was good at memorizing lectures, and my grades were generally A's, at least until like the middle point of high school, when I found out what a social life was. But before this revelation in the middle of high school, I wasn't good at being a student. I was just kind of getting by on natural ability. And like anything where you could get a good outcome without a plan, that tends to work right up until it doesn't work. And then those things tend to flame out really badly. And I flamed out pretty badly in college. So after high school, again in Arizona, I went to Arizona State University, State and State, with a national scholarship that covered tuition and a little bit extra money for housing and food and stuff like that. I then proceeded to really focus on the social life part of college and not so much on the college part of college. Like, I got really good at drinking and beer pong and much less good at showing up to class and doing my homework. And actually, that's not true. I was never good at beer pong. So my grades were bad. I lost my scholarship, and like a year and a half in, I stopped going to class entirely and just never signed up again. So for the next 2.5 years or so, I just kind of worked a dead-end job in a warehouse and kept hanging out with my college friends and continued living that college lifestyle with those friends who were still actually in school. Then, 2.5 years passed and they all graduated, and I didn't really have anything to show for my time. So I started taking classes kind of the next summer from community colleges in Phoenix, and then went back to the university that next summer, or that next fall, and was actually able to graduate with honors after another year and a half. So after working a few years after graduation, I got a really nice opportunity with a tuition reimbursement program through an employer at the time, where I then got to go back to business school and get my master's. And that's really helped me a lot in my career since then. So I mentioned earlier that I'm going to be putting together some podcasts about being a good student. And I hope, with a little bit from my story, you understand why I think that's important. These sorts of habits helped me a lot in school. They helped me a lot in my early career. They then helped me more in grad school when I was working full time. And honestly, in my post-grad school career, they're continuing to help me. Like, a lot of the nice little career I've managed to carve out has a lot to do with kind of what you would just call good study habits. And I hope to be able to instill some of that in you and just show you the through line from some of the things you do in college to some of the things you'll do in the professional world afterwards. I also want to take a moment to recognize how lucky I got at a lot of parts in this story, not the least of which are some of the systemic advantages I had. Like, I don't want to ignore the fact that I am a straight white man in America, and that comes with a lot of its own benefits, and that I was in a position where my parents were well off enough financially that I burned through a scholarship and they were able to help me go back to school. I think that's certainly not a small fact. I think looking back, that's really kind of the tipping point in this story. And it's also why I'm so excited about getting to work with people here at Teco in any way I can, because I believe that Teco can make college easier. And I think if college is easier and more equally accessible to more people, we can try to make luck and these sort of systemic advantages a smaller part of that equation. So I'm happy you're all joining us here at Teco, and I look forward to talking to you in the future about being a good student or any of the other developments on our app. Again, I'm Josh Kahn, and we'll see you at graduation.
Thank you for tuning into TecoGuide, the app focused on bringing you tools and content to help you make better decisions about school, life, and career. We hope this episode has inspired you to pursue and excel in your own educational and career journey. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share.